Hey guys, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be filming my February wrap-up, and I wanted to try something a little bit different. So I'm filming outside today and I'm standing up, so I just thought I would try something different. And also the sun's kind of going down, that's kind of why I'm filming outside. So let's hop right into it. So the first book I read in February is Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi, and this is a contemporary YA love story that follows our two main characters, Penny and Sam, and they both are kind of like in their own situations. And Penny's going to college for the first time, leaving her mother behind, and she's kind of trying to forge her own path, get a degree, and Sam works at a local coffee shop where they meet and end up striking up a romance. So I was really nervous to read this one because it has a lot of polarizing reviews, but I actually really enjoyed this and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought that these were some of like the best depictions of like teenagers in YA books that I've ever read. And Sam and Penny aren't necessarily likable characters, and I really enjoyed that about it because a lot of books aim to have like perfect characters and people just aren't perfect. So I really liked how they were flawed and everything like that, and I really liked their relationship. I thought it was really cute, and I also really liked all of the issues that were discussed in this book, and overall I just really enjoyed it, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read in February is American Panda by Gloria Chow, and this is a YA contemporary / romance that follows our main character May, and she's going to college for the first time. She's an early graduate and she is really excited to start her first year of college, but her mother is very traditional and very overbearing, and she's kind of trying to pave her own path, and she doesn't really want to go to medical school, but her parents have kind of put that pressure on her to go to medical school when really she just wants to do dance. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought this had a really good infusion of culture, and it kind of talked about May breaking free of her parents' expectations and kind of paving her own path and doing what she wants to do. And overall, I just really enjoyed this, and yeah, so I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The audiobook is also narrated really well. The next book I read in February is The Conference of the Birds by Ransom Riggs, and this is the 5th novel in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series, and I really love this series, and I really loved the original trilogy before they extended it into a 6-book series. So I'm kind of iffy about this new like story arc it's taking, and honestly I think this was my least favorite book out of all of the 5 that I've read so far. I just feel like this book was missing something, and the writing felt a little bit like lazy in my opinion, and I just feel like his other books have been so fantastical, and there was like these really great descriptions of everything, like really pretty writing, and this just felt kind of like rushed in comparison. And I don't know, this one was just kind of like my least favorite in the series so far. I still love the series to death and I'm still going to continue to read it. I just think this one was my least favorite. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because obviously I still love the series, but I do think it was my least favorite so far. So the next book I read in February is Saga Vol.2 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is an adult graphic novel sci-fi series that follows our two main characters, Alana and Marco, who are kind of on the run from the galaxy and like assassins because they're not supposed to be together because their moon and planet are at war, and they end up falling in love and having like a bastard child, and so like they're kind of on the run from assassins. And I really enjoy the series. I love it so much, and I love the art style. It's definitely for adults though. It has a lot of trigger warnings. There's a lot of like nudity, bad stuff, violence. So yeah, definitely not for young readers, but I really do enjoy this series, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read in February is Watch Us Rise by Renee Watson and Ellen Hagen, and I actually pulled this one from my TBR jar, and that's why I decided to read it. And this follows our two main characters, Jasmine and Chelsea, who both go to a high school that is kind of oppressive in terms of like sexism, and it's kind of misogynistic, and they just don't really feel included or spoken for in their school. So they decide to put together this blog and club where they talk about feminism and everything like that. And I was really hoping to love this one, but I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. I really liked the topics that were discussed, and I think a lot of important topics were discussed, but I don't think it was very inclusive because I'm an intersectional feminist, and I just found this didn't really mention queer people or disabled people, and it kind of just followed like what was in Jasmine and Chelsea's world and not what was outside of it, and I just wish that it was a little bit more inclusive. But I did really enjoy the premise of this, and I think this is a very important book, especially for today's political climate. So I still recommend this book. It just personally like didn't do it for me all the way, but I still really enjoyed it. So the next book I read in February is Baby Teeth by Zoe Stage, and this is an adult thriller that follows our main character Suzanne and her daughter Hannah. And so it follows both of their perspectives, and basically Hannah is like the sweetest child ever around her dad, but when it's just her and her mom, she's like just wild, off the walls, like almost demonic. And so basically this just kind of follows Suzanne trying to like get through to her daughter while also trying to like make her husband believe her about like what's going on, because he doesn't see when Hannah is being pretty much demonic. And I thought this was really interesting because it follows both of their perspectives rather than just Suzanne, the mother's perspective. And so you can kind of see what's going on in Hannah's head. And I really enjoyed that about it. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I originally gave it a 4 and then a 3.5 and then a 3 because the more I thought about it, it wasn't really as thrilling as I hoped it would be, and it didn't really go anywhere. I wasn't ultimately satisfied with the ending of this book, and I just kind of wanted more from it. I did physically cringe at some of the things that Hannah did that was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's doing that. But ultimately I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I still think it was really enjoyable to read though, so you might like it, I don't know. So the next book I read, I don't have a physical copy of, and that is The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise by Dan Gemmenhart. And this is a middle grade book about a girl named Coyote Sunrise and her dad who live on a school bus, and they've been traveling the country ever since there was a family tragedy. And basically Coyote finds out that this park in her hometown is being demolished, and she buried a memory box with her family who passed away, and so she's trying to kind of convince her dad, but kind of like trick her dad into driving back into that direction so she can go back to her hometown, because the grief in her family isn't really like discussed or anything like that. And I really started out enjoying this book. I really liked it. I thought Coyote was a really fun, whimsical character, and I think that most kids would love her as a character. However, I didn't really like Coyote's dad, and I think that he wasn't really great in terms of parenting, because he like would not let her talk about the family tragedy or like the grief or anything like that. And I don't know, he just kind of like made me uncomfortable as a character. And I also don't like how police were depicted in this book. Like every police officer that was in this book was like depicted as just like unnecessarily aggressive for no reason, and I don't really like how that perspective is being put into kids' heads that all police officers are bad. I don't think all police officers are bad, so I just don't really think that was really great to put in a book. But I did end up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't really love it, but I didn't really hate it either. I just didn't really like some of the things that were like addressed in this book. I think this was a really good depiction of grief, however, because that's not really depicted a lot in children's books, so I kind of appreciate this book for doing that. But yeah, I gave 3 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read in February is Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed, and this was one of my most anticipated releases of 2020. I really love both Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed, and this book is basically a political romance, and it's about Jamie and Maya, who both end up striking up a friendship and then eventually a romance while they are canvassing for their town's political campaign. And I thought this was a really clever book because it's really hard to mix things like politics and romance, and I honestly thought going into this book that it was going to be like the author's trying to make me like a conservative character, so I was kind of like weary about this. But actually I ended up enjoying this. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Here's the thing, I didn't really love the romance aspect of this book. I just didn't really feel anything for it, and I don't know if that's because I'm an adult now. I'm no longer a teenager, so I just don't really feel as much as I did before for YA romance, and the YA romances I tend to enjoy now are like the ones that take place in college, not in high school. I really do like the topics that were addressed here, and I really did like the activism and political aspects of this. I just really didn't love the romance, and I feel like the characters weren't really fleshed out well, and they kind of became their political opinion, and I just didn't really know a lot about them as characters, and so they were just kind of like shallow characters for me in that aspect. But I did really like the topics that were discussed, and I don't know, it just kind of fell flat for me. I was reading an adult romance at the same time that I was reading this one, and I just noticed how much more I enjoyed an adult romance as compared to a teenage romance, because it's like, he touched my shoulder and I felt a rush of electricity, and I'm just like, really? Like, I don't know. I'm finding myself rolling my eyes at like YA more and more that I read it, and I don't know if it's just like a me thing, but yeah, this book isn't like bad. It's definitely very important, especially for today's political climate, so I think I still recommend this book. I just didn't really love it so much, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read in February is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and this is an adult romance that follows our main character, Chloe, who has fibromyalgia and chronic pain and chronic fatigue, so she doesn't like to go out a lot, and one day she has a kind of near-death experience, and so she was like, if I die right now, I'm not going to be satisfied with my life. So she makes a list of things that she wants to do to kind of make her life better and kind of just break out of her shell a little bit and do things that she wouldn't normally do. And so basically she enlists the help of her landlord, Redford Morgan, to kind of complete her list. I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought the romance was great. It was very tentative, and they listened to each other's emotional needs, and I was just swooning over this book, and I just absolutely loved it. So yeah, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely one of the best romances I've read so far. So the next book I read in February is The Other People by CJ Tudor, and this was the February pick for the Literally Dead Book Club hosted by Books and Lala. I will link her announcement video down below if you're interested in participating. So this one is an adult thriller, and this is CJ Tudor's junior novel. I haven't read her other 2 books, The Hiding Place or The Chalk Man, but now I'm very interested to. And this one follows our main character, Gabe, who knows his daughter isn't dead, but that's what the police and everyone else says, that his wife and daughter are dead. But he doesn't believe his daughter is dead because driving on his way home to the scene of the crime, he saw his daughter in the back of a car, and so he just knows that she's alive. And so basically there is this secret thing called The Other People, and basically they kind of get revenge for people, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. This book is really hard to explain without giving away too much, so just look this book up on Goodreads and look at the Goodreads thing, because I just explained that really bad, and this is also really hard to explain. So overall, I really loved this, and I think this is one of the best thrillers I've read so far. I was intrigued the entire time, and there were so many things that I was like, what's gonna be the end result of that? What's gonna be the end result of that? And I was just intrigued the entire time. I was on the edge of my seat. I wanted to know what happened. And I gave this between a 4 and 4.5 out of 5 stars. There was like a paranormal element to this book that I wish was explored just a little bit more. But other than that, I really loved this. And like I said, this is like the best thriller I've read so far, so I highly recommend this one. So I have to film the last of this video really fast because my camera battery is dying, and so is the sunlight. So the last book I read in February is Amulet Vol.3 by Kazuki Buishi. This is a YA kind of middle grade fantasy graphic novel series that has to do with prophecy, and there's a lot of fun characters in this book, very fun and zany adventures. I'm explaining this like really bad, but I'm trying to do it really fast because, like I said, my camera battery is dying. But this is a really great graphic novel series. It has a lot of fun adventure and prophecy, and I just absolutely love this. So definitely try out the series. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, just like the other 3 that I have read. So yeah, I definitely really love this, and I highly recommend it. So I think that concludes my February wrap up. I'm sorry if it was a little bit rushed towards the end, but my camera kept dying, and I kept having to run inside and charge the battery and then come back outside and then keep going back in and out. So it was a little bit of a hassle. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like, subscribe down below, and hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss a single upload, and leave a comment letting me know what you read in February. So yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!